Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Los Banos Talk. My name is Justin Collins. Tonight's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Republican congressional candidate David Giglio, the Republican candidate for our congressional district, the 16th congressional district. And he's going to be talking to us about why he's running, issues that he sees with our valley, and what he intends to essentially do if he is elected. And we'll get into all of that in just a moment, right after a brief message from our sponsor.
So a lot of people ask what our academy has to offer. First and foremost, we are a martial arts academy. We have a very structured curriculum. Parents always ask me, why should we bring our children here? Like, what can you have to offer us? And, I've been teaching probably since I was 13 years old. And I knew that I always wanted to do martial arts. I solely focus on teaching and trying to be the best mentor and just inspire today's youth through kicking and punching.
And we're back. Thanks for watching. So once again, I'm here with Republican candidate for the 16th Congressional District, David Giglio. And without further ado, I'm going to allow him to introduce himself.
Hey, Justin, thank you for having me on. My name's David Giglio. As you just said, I'm going to be running against Jim Costa in 2022 on the Republican side. Right now, I'm the only Republican declared in the district, but that could change depending on things. Hopefully it doesn't. But yeah, thank you for having me on.
This is kind of a chance for voters to get to know who you are and get to see you. So I want to kind of get a chance for them to meet you. So why don't you tell us why you're running for Congress?
Well, I'll give you a little background about myself. I've lived in Madera. Well, not first moved out here. We lived in Fresno, so I've been out in California about 4.5 years. My wife, she has a job in pediatric medicine, so she got a job out here, moved us out here. I was a public school teacher before coming out here. Well, since moving out here, I've since started my own business in Clovis. I have a sports card and memorabilia business. I just opened up a storefront about 6 months ago. I would say one of the biggest reasons I'm running has to do with the direction of the country. I feel that, after November, at least on the Republican side, so I'm a Republican candidate. So I feel that people pretty concerned about the direction of the country. And the November election in general kind of rubbed a lot of people on our side the wrong way in terms of the final outcome. But, the radical left shift of the Democratic Party has a lot of people concerned. And I think a lot of people in our valley are concerned. California has been going left, hard left for a while up in Sacramento. And I think there were a lot of people that were at least found some comfortability in the fact that the federal government wasn't going so far left. But now we see, the President Biden has seemingly ignored his or thrown his inaugural promise of bipartisanship and bringing people together out the window, and kind of just embraced all the leftward policies that the Democrats are throwing his way, or the radical Democrats, which is most of them now. So I felt that those values and beliefs are kind of at odds with what people really believe in the Valley. Now, I know that this seat has been held by Jim Costa for a long time. He's a Democrat, but he used to be one of the more moderate Democrats in Congress. So when he originally took office, he was what's called a blue dog Democrat, one of the most moderate members, voted that way. But he's since thrown that out the window the last 2 cycles. I mean, he's voting 99% now with Nancy Pelosi and 91% with the most radical socialist wing of the party, like AOC, Rashid Tlaib. So he's kind of abandoned what people remember him for. He portrays himself as this Valley First farmer type guy, and then he goes to Washington and he's pushing policies and voting for policies that are actually hurting people in the Valley. And it's kind of motivated me to run because I think it's time we get a different voice in there.
So, if to kind of summarize, from what I gathered, you want to run essentially partly one to kind of, I guess we could say somewhat resist the leftward shift that we've seen at the federal level to an extent. And you feel like conservative interests and conservative values are in the best interest of the valley? You feel like Jim Costa was initially elected kind of on those values, but has gone away from those values, and you feel like you would be a stronger candidate or a better candidate to reflect those values. It's not my position to really endorse either conservative or liberal values per se, but I'm just trying to characterize essentially what you.
Yeah, I mean the cornerstone message of this campaign, I mean we're not even so much, a lot of our targeting is going to be towards Democrats and moderate Democrats and independents. We feel that the core message of the campaign is to really go to Washington and vote Valley first, kind of put the Valley ahead of the establishment up there in DC. And it goes without saying, I believe that Jim Costa isn't doing that. I think the job of a representative is to vote for the values and beliefs of the people that elected him, and I don't feel that Jim is doing that. And that's kind of the core message of this campaign is, sending someone to Washington who's about the Valley and who's going to put the Valley ahead of, the establishment in DC, whether it be Republican or Democrat. You're supposed to vote in the way which in the best interest of the people you represent. And I strongly believe that Jim's not doing that.
So when you say that the core message is to vote for the Valley first, to put the Valley first, what does that mean to you? What kind of things are putting the Valley first?
Well, I'm going to start with the water issue, number one, because that is a big issue. Jim on his website and in his press releases and everything he talks about is that he's a farmer and he's lived here for 40 years and he's committing to fighting for the farmers and getting solutions to the water crisis. But then he goes to Washington and he's doing things that are completely at odds with that. For instance, last week alone, him and he's a lot of talk and no action. And the action he does provide is minimal relief at best. It's not real relief. For instance, last week he announced that him and Nancy Pelosi had entered into an agreement called the Canal Conveyance Restoration Act, which on paper sounds like a great thing. Okay, it's getting $650 million to restore the canal, 3 major canals in the valley, and that's a great thing. That's good. But what he isn't publicizing about this act is if you talk to any of the farmers in the district and the agricultural workers, what is one of the biggest things, I'm going to ask you, what is one of the biggest things they say is absolutely needed to solve the water crisis?
Usually they talk about building dams or water.
So dams, above ground water storage, raising current dams, or expanding the capacity of the canals. In the bill that Jim Costa and Nancy Pelosi are praising and bragging about, it actually forbids any federal money from being used to build new above ground water storage, expand the capacity of any existing dams, and raise any existing reservoirs. So this bill, he's going to throw a big number out there and say, here, hey, I got a bunch of money to help the farmers. But the bill is actually preventing some of the policies that need to be done. Like we need above ground water storage. For instance, last year, a couple of professors at UC Berkeley released a study, and they said it's projected, their findings were that if we do not add above ground water storage, we're looking at 1 million acres fallowed in the valley, 42,000 jobs, just valley jobs alone, lost annually. And that's direct farm worker jobs. So if you count indirect effects like shipping, fish industry, retail industries, it jumps up to 82,000 jobs and 1.1 billion in wages lost annually. And those aren't just wages of the top level farm owners. Those are wages of the farm workers. So without this new water surface storage, if we don't do that within 10 years, we're going to lose all of that. We're going to lose 1 million acres. We're going to lose 42,000 jobs, and we're going to lose 1.1 billion in revenue annually. So for Jim to propose a solution that doesn't really address the main cause of issues is what I'm talking about. It's all talk, no action. It's not a real solution.
Okay, so one of the things that I guess we could say, Jim Costa has going for him is just the fact that since he's been there a while and he has some seniority, logically he does probably have some connections, some friends, and it might make some projects easier. Why do you feel like you would actually benefit the Valley more than him, or be able to benefit the Valley more than him if you were sent to Congress instead of him?
Well, one of the things Jim talks about is, he knows what the Valley farmers need. He's a farmer himself. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that I am a farmer and that I have all the answers. But one of the things I'm pledging to do and that I want to do is I acknowledge I'm not an expert. So I want to go to the actual farmers, the people that are running the farms, and I want to create a farm advisory board and have them develop solutions directly with me so we can come up with a set plan. And that plan is what I'm going to do, take action when I get to Congress. I'm not going to sit there and tell you I'm an expert. Um, I'm going to go to the people that actually know what's needed, and I'm going to ask them for help so they can tell me this is what's needed, and I could say, okay, this is what you guys need. This is what I'm going to fight for in Washington. And Jim is saying that he's already an expert and he knows it. He clearly doesn't know what's needed because, or his expertise isn't good enough because what he's doing in Washington isn't actually the policies. And I know you touched on his seniority and he's been there, the connections. So where we are currently in the state of our campaign, we have about $125,000 on hand. I put in some money of my own. We've raised some donation money. We're about to roll out another bigger fundraiser. We're about to start doing some meet and greets. The first one's going to be in Fresno on May 11th, Gettysburg Park. We're going to be doing May 11th, 12th, and 13th. We're going to have a meet and greet in each county in the district. You can learn about them or RSVP for them on our website, davidforthevalley.com. So we have a good amount of cash starting on hand, but I've also hired some people with some connections. So my general consultant, my lead consultant on the campaign, he's a man named by Matt Brainerd. He worked high up on the Trump campaign. He was their director of data and strategy in 2016. He still works closely with President Trump. So he has pull in Washington with the RNC and the Cal GOP. So we're hoping that his presence is going to do, it's been a struggle for candidates on the Republican side that have run in this race to get kind of attention from the Cal GOP and the RNC. And Matt has pledged to me from the beginning that he's getting me in front of both the RNC and the Cal GOP. He's actually working on setting up a meeting with Jessica Patterson soon. So we're going to be talking with her. So we feel there's some viability here. And one of the reasons many candidates have struggled to get the attention of the RNC and the Cal GOP is because, on paper, this district is D+9. It is a heavily Democratic district. But I strongly believe, and Matt believes, and pollsters that I've talked to believe that there's opportunity in this district if the money and the effort is put in, if there's support given to the candidate. So we see this district as containing a lot of moderate blue dog Democrats, kind of the type that elevated Trump in 2016, right? In places like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, these moderate conservative Democrats that are feeling left behind as the party kind of goes more and more leftward and kind of doesn't speak to them anymore. And that's the vote we're really trying to capture. And that's where our message is, this populist type, these people that are starting to feel left behind. So we see a lot of opportunity, and we believe those votes are out there in the district, and we're just hoping to capitalize them. So we're really hoping to get some volunteers on board and people to come meet with me. Like I said, you can go to the website, davidforthevalley.com. But we see a lot of viability in this race, and we think starting off early right now and getting some money in really is going to put us on a path to success.
Great. So this kind of question, it's a little bit of a comment and a question, if you will, but one, I want to say thank you for coming on this show. And when I say that, I mean because a lot of people, well, Jim Costa is kind of notorious for doing this, but a lot of people and candidates, when they run for our district, they don't care about Los Banos. They don't care about Merced. They don't care about the entire northern half of the district. They are only focused on Fresno. They know that they can win Fresno and win the whole thing. And when you look at traditionally when Jim Costa does win, he usually takes Fresno and that, kind of seals the deal. But I want to commend you first for coming on and taking the time and feeling like it was important enough to talk to Los Banos voters, because that means something to me and to us. But I also want to say, with that going forward, though, because you're from Fresno and so is Jim Costa. So I guess my concern and my question I'd like to ask you is, what would you do to try to make places like us, Los Banos and Merced, and those of us north of Fresno that aren't the main population center, what would you do to make us feel like we're heard and to address our concerns as well?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you said what you said. So, one, I do actually live in Madera. So it's basically Fresno. I live in the new developments in the ranchos there. But so when I first got into this campaign, one, even speaking with the Fresno GOP and some of the other GOP leaders, obviously there was a lot of who the heck is this guy, right? I haven't run for office before. I've worked on campaigns in the past in Connecticut, but I haven't run for office out here. So when I envisioned this campaign, it was started off as this is going to be a grassroots type effort. This is the kind of campaign. If a Republican is going to win, they have to go out and they have to sell their message. So one of the questions was posed to me: how much money do you need to win? Are you going to be able to get the money? And yeah, we're going to fundraise and we're going to get money. But I told this to the people at the Fresno GOP and the other places that this isn't the kind of district where money alone is going to win it. Elizabeth Heng had millions of dollars and her campaign came up short. And you're not going to swing this district by running television ads saying I'm a different type of Republican and I believe in America First, Valley First type principles. It's a good message, but just running an ad isn't going to do that. So our goal is to really go out and hammer away and do as many meet and greets, go to these events. I spoke a lot with Gina Wallace. She's the Madera County chairman, Republican chairman. She worked on Johnny Teixeira's campaign in 2014, which came close to beating Jim. Most people think he actually did beat Jim. It wasn't until a couple of weeks later that, the mail-in votes came in and they were like, oh, you lost. Johnny was actually in Washington getting ready to be sworn in and he was at orientation and they said, oh, we're sending you back. We found the vote and the votes came in and you lost. But one of the things that I talked to Gina about and she emphasized was the importance of Merced County and the importance of all the parts of the district. Johnny won Merced County and nobody has won it since. And Johnny did it by focusing on Merced County. He spent a lot of time out there going to all the events and we absolutely intend to do that. And I told this to the Fresno GOP. I told it to Gina when I first spoke to her. And I spoke to Gene Johnson, who's the first chair of the Merced County Republicans. My biggest selling point is I'm committed to going out. And if I have to knock on every door in the district, I will, because like you said, every vote's important. Every voter in this district is important. And a Republican cannot win this district. We believe, looking at the numbers, I believe, and the people I have working for me believe, without winning Merced and spending time in Merced. So, there's a lot of talk about Fresno being the apple of the eye in this district, but we believe that the path to winning is to really strengthen our vote totals in Madera, where it's heavy Republican vote totals. I mean, Kevin won Madera, Elizabeth Heng won Madera. They pulled about 55%. I want to get about 60% there, but I want to win Merced. That is one of the goals of this campaign is to flip Merced County, because I don't think it's possible for a Republican to win this race without focusing on Merced, Los Banos, and those places. Those have to be our bread and butter. And one of the reasons why I believe it's possible is the Latino community. We have an absolute intention to target Latino voters. We feel that our message, building upon the Trump message, is going to connect with Latino voters. I think the data shows that, Trump overwhelmed, historic numbers with Latino voters. He got about 35%. He got about 35% with Latino voters, which was historic numbers for a Republican. And, back when he first ran in 2016, they laughed at him and said, no Latino's ever going to vote for this guy. They're going to be the ones that sink him. And he's since blown their numbers out of the water. We believe our core message of our campaign taps into what the Trump team did with those Latino voters. Latino voters, they're hardworking. I'm Catholic. Most of them are Catholic. So they're very faith-based, family-oriented people. And our message is going to target them. We're very strong on the pro-life issue. And we intend to really sell them on our immigration stance. Republicans in the media are saying, well, these evil Republicans, right? They don't want, Hispanics in this country. And the message of our campaign is totally an opposite with that. I believe in securing our borders. I think I don't look at that as a racial issue. Securing our borders is a national security kind of common sense issue. You wouldn't you wouldn't, leave your house open in the middle of the night and say anybody can come in and not knowing who they are. I mean, especially now with COVID going on, we see people aren't even getting tested and they're being spread all over the country. But it's not a racial issue. I want anybody who wants to come to the United States to be able to come here. I think it's been a failure of our government to really address the broken immigration system. It shouldn't take 5 years for somebody who wants to come to the United States to become a citizen. And one of the core messages that legal immigration is better for these people, because when you come here legally, you get the full opportunity to live and achieve the American dream, which is what these people want. The Democrats are saying just come in, come in, come in. And they're looking at these people as votes, a permanent voting block, because they're saying, well, we'll just give you assistance and we'll give you just enough to get by. But that's not why these people are really coming here. These people are coming to the United States because they want to live the American dream. And if we make it easier and more feasible for them to come here legally, they're going to really have that opportunity. So I want anyone to come here. And we strongly believe, back on the original point, that Merced County is key to this race. And we really are planning to work hard with the Merced GOP. I spoke with Gene Johnson a lot, and we're going to help out with registration drives, targeting Hispanic voters, but targeting everybody. Merced is kind of, to us, that we believe it is right now one of the golden place. We need to rack up votes there, and we need to flip Merced County if we're going to have any chance to win this. Because if we can win Merced and then bump our numbers to around 35, 37% in Fresno, we feel pretty good about our chances in this race. We're kind of modeling it on how Johnny did it in 2014. He was able to win Madera County, he won Merced County, and he pulled about 34, 35 in Fresno, and he came this close. So we kind of target numbers in sight, but it's going to take a lot of work. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy, but yeah, we're not going to ignore you guys up there in Los Banos. I mean, you guys are going to be, we're spend a lot of time there, which is why we need a lot of volunteers, and we're hoping to build a strong volunteer base.
Great. So I guess to kind of summarize, I mean, you brought up a couple of different opinions and stances you have on different national issues, but I guess when it came to immigration, it sounded like your position was you believe that the border should be secured. It's a national security issue, but at the same time, you also feel like legal immigration should be easier than it currently is. So
Yeah,
it's like mix immigration, but also secure the border. It sounded like pretty much.
yeah, and I think that's a pretty common sense approach. I think there's no denying our immigration system's broken. It's time to put words into action. Politicians, and I think that's one of the things that helps me. I'm not a politician. I was a teacher. I'm a businessman now. It's time to actually take a stand on this. Politicians have been using this issue as kind of a political football for a while now to gain points, but it's time we did something about it. We're never going to fix it unless we really streamline the immigration process, make it more appealing and better to people, encourage people to come here legally, and let them know the benefits of coming here legally, right? Like I said, you come here legally, you have full opportunity to really live the American dream. You don't have to worry about living in the shadows. You don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder. You don't have to depend on the government to help you, to let you and your family get by. And that's not what these people want. These people want to come here, start their own businesses, and have their children achieve the American dream. So we really need to work to fix that.
Okay, so it sounds like a strong part of your campaign sounds like will be focused on the interests of Merced County as well, and the other rural parts, not just the city of Fresno, and it sounds like you guys are also interested in talking about the various federal issues as well, such as pro-life, such as
Yeah.
border security, immigration, all those things. I think kind of in comparison to other type interviews I've done with candidates running for this office or offices in general, it's kind of interesting when I do a interview for someone running for Congress, because you kind of have to balance both, right? You have to,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be the representative of the people, right? You're supposed to, in the original Constitution, this was actually the only federal position that was elected directly by people.
Yep.
And the idea is that it's really supposed to be the people's person, And
Good to hear someone say it. Most people don't know that. So yeah.
yeah, senator was elected by state legislature under the original constitution. But um, so I guess where I'm going with this is essentially you kind of have to balance both, right? You
Yeah.
need to understand and talk about local Central Valley issues and talk about the issue specifically and how you would help us. But at the same time, once you're in Congress, you also still are the representation on those national level and federal level issues. So it's kind of you kind of have to balance both.
Yeah, and that's a good point because so I have to think of it in terms of what I can do for the valley when I'm in Congress. And I'd love to go up to Sacramento and vote and change a lot of the laws they're instituting in Sacramento, but I'm going to be having to deal with the federal issues. That's why one of the things I said was get securing money for actual, these water projects that could really the federal government's the one at this point that can really has the money to address the water issue. So if we're going to get dams, we're going to get that above ground water storage and even more below ground water storage, it's going to have to come at the federal level. So that's something we're really going to focus on. But we also can talk about things like education and also federal policies that are going to promote jobs in this area. So once again, harping on the water thing, if we don't do this water surge, we're going to lose jobs in Merced, in Madera, in Fresno County, because it's not being dealt with at the federal level adequately. But also other things like lower taxes in general. I mean, government spending right now, the president's going to speak tonight and he's going to call for it's like a $2 trillion, he calls it the American Rescue Plan package, a lot of spending. And raising taxes isn't the answer to everything. The government keeps raising taxes and taking more money just so they could spend more money. We need to really rein in the government and take a step back. When it seems like a lot of history. When our government was originally founded, right, the federal government was supposed to be kind of almost the weaker of the three because it was the furthest away from the people. So the federal government was really meant to deal with bigger issues like, building roads and national defense. And we've kind of morphed the federal government into this behemoth of a monster that is kind of trying to control all aspects of our life. And we need to take a step back and learn how to spend our money wisely. A lot of the problems, Social Security, Medicare, healthcare, we have enough money to adequately address those issues if we learn how to rein in our spending, right? We can divert money from programs that are wasteful spending. We saw in that omnibus spending bill, all the crazy stuff the government spends this money on. And just taking more money out of the pockets of people now is not the right answer, especially in a place like here in California. We've suffered through a lockdown for one of the strictest lockdowns in the country for over a year now. Businesses are struggling. People have been out of work for a while. People are struggling. We still have one of the highest unemployment rates compared to other states in the country. So if you're raising taxes right now, it's going to cause a huge problem for our valley and for our state because, these companies aren't just going to suck this thing up. What they're going to do is they're going to lay off workers, they're going to cut hours, and it's going to have a trickle-down effect to the people who need those jobs the most. So the Democrats are framing this as we're just going to hit the wealthiest owners and big corporations, but they're not going to tell you that this is going to hit down to everybody. It's going to stifle economic growth, and it's really going to cause an issue for everyone in the valley. So, Jim, like I said, he votes 99% with Pelosi. So if the president says, hey, we're going to do this plan and we're going to raise taxes, Jim's going to vote for it. Now, I think there's a better way of getting aid to people without having to jack up everybody's taxes. And one of the ways is to cut spending on, wasteful programs. So this is important. If this bill goes through, we can't keep spending this money recklessly, right? We're into trillions of dollars now, and the government's just throwing money around into the economy, and eventually it's going to catch up to us. So those are issues that we're really going to focus on. And other federal issues that are hot topics right now are just, freedom of speech. People, these are issues that shouldn't concern us just as Democrats or Republicans. I talked a lot about this to people, censorship on media. It shouldn't, if you're a Democrat, it shouldn't be okay to you because they're silencing Republicans right now, right? And if I'm a Republican, I would never, I have a lot of friends who are hardcore Bernie Sanders supporters, right? And I would never say that they couldn't express their opinions. I think that's a scary thing. And I think that's we're at a scary point in our country when people are starting to say that it's okay to do that, because once again, go to the Constitution. Freedom of speech is not, it's not freedom of speech that I like, right? It's freedom of speech for everybody. And to start condoning it because, oh, it's against something you like, it works good now, but I always try to tell people this, you're always one differing opinion away from the mob turning on you, right? So, and you've seen that with some, even people, celebrities, right, that have, like Jimmy Kimmel's an example, right? Jimmy Kimmel was all about it, hammering with Trump, and then it came out about him. They turned on him, right? So you're always a different opinion away. I mean, he was doing some other things, but the second you fall out of line, they'll come for you. So those are issues that we have to protect. Second Amendment is something we're going to focus on. That's an issue that I think people in the Central Valley are passionate about, more so than other parts of California. And you see already, they're really coming for the Second Amendment. And I want people to know that, the Second Amendment at its core isn't really about guns. It's about the idea that the people need to be able to hold their government accountable. If a government becomes too oppressive, too much power, there has to be a way for the people to stand up for that, against that government. Now, I'm not advocating for overthrowing the government. I'm just saying that's what the core of the Second Amendment's about, right? The framers of the Constitution had just gotten through a Revolutionary War where they felt Great Britain was overreaching, right? Was acting totalitarian towards them, and they wanted to make sure that the people in our country had the opportunity and had the means to express themselves, to defend themselves if and when a government became too oppressive. So it's not just about guns. It's not about, hey, everybody needs to have guns. It's about liberty, right? Having the ability to stand up for what's right.
So I think it's good that you brought up several of the federal issues and where you stand, and that
Yeah.
you were upfront and where you are. I agree with you as far as the censorship goes. I myself, for instance, I allow both Democrat and Republican to come on the show. It doesn't matter. Jim Costa can come on the show. You can come on the show. I have invited him in the past. Last time though around he did decline, but who knows? Maybe this time he'll come on. Uh, but needless to say, no, I agree. I mean, when it comes to speech, yeah, I don't really think we should be in the business of censoring. And the as far as the First Amendment goes, with protections to free speech, I had a teacher one time who basically said, popular speech doesn't need protection. It's unpopular
Yes.
speech that needs protection.
And that's why they threw it. That's why the amendment was put in there.
And the other thing is yeah, in regards to the Second Amendment, what specifically says is the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. So
Pretty cut and dry.
it's pretty, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. If we're looking at history, then we have to acknowledge the idea that the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that being the second one, was created in the hindsight of, yeah, the Revolutionary War, and the idea that Britain had just banned individual citizens from having guns and was not allowing people to form a militia because it was trying to keep down a revolution. And so even like the Third Amendment, which is kind of joked about as being the amendment that never happened, but it's funny because it's never enforced when it actually does come up, because technically it was violated with the DC thing. But anyway,
Mhm.
uh,
Right.
right, quartering military within homes and stuff is also violated a lot during the Civil War,
Yep.
technically by the Union. But needless to say, the Third Amendment's never been enforced when it is actually violated. Most people forget
Well,
about.
that's the scary. The scary part is a lot of them aren't being enforced as much anymore, and that's something that it's a federal issue, but it affects all of us here. And our freedoms, right? The president made a comment talking about the Second Amendment where he actually said, no amendment is absolute. And I would argue that the Bill of Rights is about as absolute as anything gets, because we wouldn't even have a constitution without the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights are there for a comment like that. Because when the framers, when the Federalists and everybody was forming the government, the Federalists said, we need, they originally said, well, we don't have to include this stuff in there because it's just a given, right? Everybody understands it. That's what this country is. And the Federalists said, wait a minute, we can't just take everyone's word for it that they're not going to do these things, because right now we think that everyone's on the same page. We want it written in there, or else we're not going to join this union. So there wouldn't be a country without it, if the Bill of Rights weren't added in. So the Bill of Rights are basically, in my view, they're right there with the regular Constitution. They are about as absolute as you can get. And I think the liberties guaranteed in them is what makes America so special. And right now we're seeing a lot of that being ignored. I don't want to harp on the election too much because it's not what we're talking about right now, but laws just being ignored, right? Laws that are pretty cut and dry. You said Second Amendment, it's pretty cut and dry, and you can't just ignore them when they don't fit your reasoning, right? You can't look at the Constitution as an obstacle, right? The Constitution is what our country's all about, and that affects us right down here in Fresno, California, and everyone around the country. So that's another part of the campaign. We're really trying to fight our liberties. We live through it in California, right? A lot of people in this area have felt angered about the lockdowns, being told your job isn't important, your job isn't essential, your business isn't essential, we're going to shut you down. I don't agree with that. I don't think the government should be telling anybody that their businesses aren't essential. As a small business owner, I don't have a ton of employees, thank God, because I wouldn't want to lay people off. But the government shouldn't be the reason your business fails, right? The government shouldn't be the reason you lose your job. And over the past year, we've seen, unfortunately, government decisions, specifically in California by our governor, be the reason that kind of thing has happened. And we're lagging behind in bringing those jobs back. So at the federal level, we need to establish that our liberties are important, and states shouldn't be allowed to infringe on liberties like that. So that's an issue that branches both areas, because we've seen it now coming at a state level, and we've seen it coming at a federal level, where liberties and freedoms are being kind of like, we're going to ignore them when we deem it, the science, right?
As far as the Bill of Rights go, yeah, I think we can all pretty much say the Bill of Rights is considered to be untouchable. The other 17 since then, but the Bill of Rights, yeah, pretty much.
I just don't think, I'm not sure that the left thinks they're untouchable.
No, I don't think that either, but I would say that, yeah, I would say the consensus among average American society would be that
Well, yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, and that's why, that's one of the biggest reasons I'm running, is that I'm not going to say what Jim thinks, but I'm just saying, when push comes to shove, if the Democrats in power right now wanted to take away those, Jim's going to vote the way Nancy tells him to vote. So, it's 99% whatever Nancy said. You can't never say never, right? That's kind of what they count on. We're never going to do it. We're never going to do it, right? Nobody thinks it's ever going to happen until it does.
So my next question for you, kind of based on just kind of what you've talked about, but it's also a question I asked the last candidate, Kevin Cookingham, when he came on. I essentially ask, and I ask all the candidates this. So in our current situation now, right? Democrats control the House. The Senate split, but the vice president tie vote, so it's kind of 50-50. And then the president's Democrat, Joe Biden. So if you were hypothetically elected, you're going to be in a scenario, at least temporarily, but in the initial, where you're in the minority position. So I guess my question really for you is, how would you work with Democrats or the other side, or would you not work with them or try to oppose, or how do you see that? What's your strategy to dealing with being in the minority position?
Well, if I was to get in, I would think that that would probably mean that Republicans had a pretty good showing in the midterm, so we'd probably win back the House. But if we didn't, say, for instance, let's talk about the water issue again, because that's an issue that shouldn't be partisan. So that's an issue that Democrats and Republicans should solve, because it's what's needed. The Central Valley feeds like 80% of America. So that's an issue that we should be able to come to the table as Democrats and Republicans and want to solve adequately, not just propose superficial solutions. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. That's an issue you don't even look at Democrat or Republican. That's an issue we need to come together and say, this is what our people need. This is what America needs. Because if we lose all these acres, if we lose all these farm jobs, it's going to hurt the rest of the United States, Democrats and Republicans alike. So we have to start looking at things in that way. And even with the immigration issue, right? I mean, there's an opportunity to work together there if we really want to, Securing our borders, like I said, I strongly believe in that and I want to fight for that. But I also think that people should be allowed to come to the United States. So why can't both sides come together to fix the system? If the system's broke, both sides acknowledge the system's broken and that it's not working efficiently. So let's come together and let's fix it so we don't have what's going on right now at the border, right? So let's make it more appealing, easier for people to come here legally and become U.S. citizens legally. So those are the ways to work together. Everybody's always focused on Democrat and Republican. I'm going to do it this way and I'm not going to vote for the other side. And I don't necessarily believe that. Like I said, the core message of the campaign is this fight for the Valley message. So I want to do what's in the best interest of the Valley. And there's a lot of issues that branch party lines that if we really took a step back, thought about it, we could come to common ground. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why not a lot's getting done in Washington, because everybody says, well, I'm not going to listen to you because you're a Republican, or I'm not going to listen to you because you're a Democrat. And that's not the way to do things, right? That's not the way to propose solutions. And I think that's what's got a lot of people turned off to the government and to politics in general, because nobody wants to work it together anymore. And I'm a pretty easygoing guy. Like I said, I have a lot of friends who are Democrats. And I believe that my job going to Washington is to help the people that I represent. And if I have to, work with Democrats to get it done, if it's in the best interest of the people, I'm going to get it done. And now that's not to say I'm not going to sacrifice core values that I strongly believe. I'm conservative at heart, and I believe in a lot of things. Like I'm very, very much, I grew up Catholic, so abortion is a big issue to me. But issues where we can work together, like I said, water, that's a bipartisan issue. That shouldn't be partisan. Like anybody can get that done. Democrat or Republican should want to get it done. So that's something we have to start there, an issue that should be bipartisan. If we can start working together on those issues, then we can start having more civil conversations on the other things, right? So there's an opportunity to get things done. If you look at things from that perspective, you can work with the other side.
So in other words, to summarize, you're basically saying, yes, you would be willing to work with Democrats on things that are that you perceive to be nonpartisan, if it's for the interest of the Valley, and so long as it doesn't compromise on one of your core values.
Yeah, like for instance, let's talk about healthcare, right? It's a big issue Republicans get hammered on. There's all these people saying Republicans don't want pre-existing conditions. Republicans want to cut your Medicare and your Social Security. That's always pounded through the media. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true, right? I don't want pre-existing conditions, cover them. The thing that I value is people should have the opportunity to pick the coverage that they want. I'm against the single payer system. I don't think the government should be the sole provider of healthcare. If somebody wants to have their own private, and a business wants to provide their own private plans, people should have the option, because competition breeds ingenuity, right? That's one of the things with capitalism. So if we give people options, there's going to be better options made available. If it's a one size fit all thing, that's where you have trouble. Now, with Social Security and Medicare, I don't want to cut Social Security and Medicare. What I want to do is stop spending money on some crazy things. Then we'd have money to really address the issues with Medicare and Social Security. And right now, not many people know this, but the Social Security formula is what's kind of the issue here. The states that need the money the most, the way the formula is written, are not the states that are getting, this is for Medicaid specifically, are not getting that money, right? So Medicaid is supposed to cover the lowest level earners, but there's actually incentives for the states to come up with different ways, accounting tricks to get more money. So right now, the data is actually showing that the states that are actually more well off are the ones receiving the most Medicare money, while the states that are the least well off are receiving the least amount. So we have to work together to come up with a solution that actually makes that program work for what it's designed to do. And that's not, and so Republicans are always attacking. They want to cut Social Security, they want to cut Medicare, they want to cut Medicaid, they don't want pre-existing conditions covered. No, that's an issue though, healthcare. That's an issue that could be, hey, this is something we should solve bipartisan, right? Something we can work together on. So, but those are my core beliefs, is that people I strongly believe that people should have the options to like, I am strongly against the government taking over healthcare. So on that note, I would fight it. But other ways, I'm open to other solutions. I don't want to take away your Medicare. I don't want to cut Social Security. All those things. There's ways to work together without dealing in absolutes, right? Everyone's constantly dealing in absolute. We need to get away from that.
No, I definitely agree on your last statement about constantly looking at things like absolute or zero sum game, as I often say.
Yeah.
That is very frustrating that everyone looks at situations as a binary, A or B, and then often look at things as zero sum or absolute when reality
Mhm.
is there's gray area, there's in between. There might be five solutions to a problem or 10, not just two. Just because we have two political parties doesn't mean there's only two solutions. And
Yeah.
no, I agree with that sentiment. So the last two things I'd like to ask you about before we conclude the interview. All right. So, my next question for you is if somebody is interested in learning more about your campaign, more about your platform, more about you, they want to talk to you, maybe they want to volunteer for you, if they'd like to attend one of your events, rallies, fundraisers, whatever, where can they get in touch with you? Where's your information? What can you share with us?
The goal of our campaign is to really be a strong grassroots effort. So we're really heavily dependent on getting volunteers. So we have our website, davidforthevalley.com. So it's davidforthevalley.com. You can also email me. It's at info@giglioforcongress.com. So that's the email. And if someone wants to give me a call, you can call me. I'll give you my personal cells, 203-506-2677. But we're really looking for volunteers. We heavily want to push people. If you want to get involved, if you like what I had to say, if you want to learn more and then get involved, we really need volunteers, and everything, volunteering, donating, all that can be done on the website, davidforthevalley.com. We have a Facebook group, David Giglio for Congress. We're on Twitter. It's David Giglio CA, and then same call sign on Instagram. I'll bring the website up and show you. Importantly, we have some meet and greets coming up, so I'll bring it up on the website and show you. Yeah, so one of the things we have coming up, we have 3 meet and greets. Our first, we're really excited about these. Our first one's going to be Tuesday, May 11th. It's going to be in Fresno at Inspiration Park. So you can actually go on our website, hit the events tab. All 3 counties are listed, and you can RSVP on the website. So we're actually going to be in Merced the following day at Lions Park, 6 p.m. You can RSVP, and then that's Madera. We're going to be in Merced on the 13th in Carpenter Park at 6 p.m. So the 11th, 12th, and 13th are our first meet and greets. You can go on the website. You can RSVP for those. You can read a little bit about my bio. It just tells me about who I am, what I believe. We're going to have more issues put up here shortly. We have news when we issue some press releases. We issued one about the water crisis. And then volunteer right in our website. So we really want people to volunteer. So you just come on, you click the volunteer tab, put in your things. And we're looking for people to do anything. You don't have to check every box. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to feel obliged that you have to come to every event. Right. We just want people, if you're free one day and we say we're doing something and you want to come, we really want people to volunteer, especially, in each county. We want to build a strong team in each county. So you just fill out the form, you click next, there's another page, short couple things, and then you click it, we'll get it. And then to donate, you go right on here, make donations right on our website. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So everything can be done on here. Like I said, you can email me. My email was, again, info@giglioforcongress.com. You can even find the contribute link on the homepage. And then there's links to all our social media on there. But yeah, we're really trying to look for volunteers. So I want to emphasize the need. If you like what I had to say and you think you'd be interested in helping the campaign, really go on, come to our meet and greets. In Los Banos, come down when we're in Merced. Come down. I'd love to talk to you. If you're a little on the fence still, you can ask me questions. Come down in Merced on the 13th. Ask me questions. Challenge me on something and talk to me. I want to talk to everybody. So yeah, that's really where we're at. We're hoping to get some money together. It does take money to win. I said that a strong ground game. We want that, but we need money to really make this thing work, because we have pretty big goals for this campaign, and we think with our message, we're going to be able to reach enough people to finally, to win this race. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Great. And so you think maybe you might be scheduling soon, maybe a meet and greet in Los Banos sometime in the near future?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So we have a couple of places we're thinking about going. Justin gave me he gave me a good recommendation, so I'm going to contact them. Probably going to call my campaign manager here after this and tell him to get on that. So yeah, we'll be in Los Banos soon. I don't know when, but definitely we're going to go down there. So we want to get down there. So I'm going to put that on the calendar. If it does, when it does get finalized, it'll be right up there on events. Yeah, so we'll be down seeing that area soon. And like I said, if you're in the Merced area, if you want to come to the one at in Merced on the 13th, Carpenter Park, we'll be there. See, click register now. So it works pretty good. Cool.
all right. Well, thank you so much, David, for coming on my show. I greatly appreciate it. Is there anything else you would like to let the audience know before we conclude this interview?
So I just want to say again, make sure you check out our website. If you think you'd be willing to volunteer, sign up. We're always looking for donations. Anything you can give, helps. We're not looking for everybody to give the maximum. Whatever you can offer us, we greatly appreciate it. And I just want to say that, the core of this campaign, like I said, is to put the people of the Valley first. And I think it's long past time that the people have confidence that their representative of Congress is voting with their best interests in mind. And I think that that's imperative message to get through. So, we really are committed to real solutions for the Valley. And the water issue is a big thing. It's something we always go back to, but it's long past time. The Valley doesn't have 15 more years to wait to come up with a real solution for the water issue. So if you believe that it's kind of time for a change up there and get somebody in there who really represents you, your values, and your beliefs, then I think that this campaign is for you, because that's what I want to be. I want to be your voice in Washington. So yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. We'll be back on soon.
All right. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, please like, follow, subscribe to Los Banos Talk. We have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and of course, losbanostalk.com. You can become a supporter of Los Banos Talk and get all the videos first and ad-free, plus exclusive behind-the-scenes bonus content and opinion pieces. Once again, my name is Justin Collins, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.